Hi, Commissioner. How are you?
Hi there.
I have so many questions, and the good news is I'm limited to 10 minutes. The good news for me is you're not limited. So I'm going to go through a whole bunch of concerns that I have, and hopefully
Okay, well,
you
let me
can
write
address
them
the
down as you
concern.
go.
So we've already established that we're going to be using the Pearson tests again, but you're going to modify them.
This is muffled, I'm not quite
Sorry,
sure.
the Pearson tests, we're going to be using them, but you're going to modify them.
Yes.
Okay, one of the big problems with the Pearson tests were they disregarded IEPs. So when you have students with learning disabilities, we may do guided learning, and they weren't able to do that. So that was a big concern throughout the state. The other thing is the developmental appropriateness and also the age appropriateness of a lot of the tests. And I was hearing that if a kid was chronologically in 5th grade, okay, but developmentally in 1st grade, they were trying to test them at a higher level. And the answer the state gave was, we'll give them more time to take the test. So that's a concern that I have with the testing. The other thing with the testing is we're not counting it against the teachers. We're not counting it against the students, okay? Why give the test? And are the tests sole purpose to examine whether or not you're going to put the schools into receivership? Okay, is that what we're using the test for? Because they're not counting against the children, not counting against the students. The other thing is I want to make sure there's not going to be any punishment, because I predict we're going to have a big opt-out movement this year. Okay, and I don't want to see schools punished because parents decide to opt out their children. Another area of concern is the cap. I'm being told it's not a true 2% cap. And some schools are telling me they may have a 0% cap this year. Mm-hmm. And they're not going to be able to do that. What do we need to look at there, right? Pre-K, kindergarten. I mean, it's known that you can have pre-K, but if you don't continue with kindergarten, all right, there's no benefit. And many of our schools in the suburban areas, I know of schools, one of my school districts, actually has a lottery for kindergarten. So what happens is some schools, you know, some kids will go into kindergarten, and other schools, the parents have to pay out of their pockets to the school district in order for their child to go to kindergarten. What are we doing about that? One other thing is some schools wrote their own curriculum to comply with the standards, and they're very happy with the curriculum. Mm-hmm. Why aren't we looking at reimbursing those school districts for the money they laid out? Have them submit it to the state, and if the state adopts their curriculum, they reimburse the school districts for the expense of creating the curriculum. That would give us homegrown curriculum written by our teachers, which are the best teachers, some of the best teachers in the country. Why keep buying it off companies when we're seeing curriculum that's horrific? Diplomas. We keep giving fancy names to diplomas. And these kids can't even get in the service with the diplomas that we're trying to give them. When I went to school, we had a Regents diploma and a general diploma. We had an education track and a career track. There's nothing wrong with being an electrician or a plumber. They make more money than a lot of lawyers that I know that came out of school. Okay? So I just think that once the government intruded, every level of government intruded into education, they screwed it all up. Right? We got to get government out of our classrooms and let teachers teach. Now, the curriculum that we've had has been so structured that teachers basically are teaching to the middle of the class, and that's it. And they're passing these kids by. When I was taught to teach, you taught to the middle of the class. You gave seat work to reinforce what you taught. You gave the kids that were a little advanced a little harder work to do. Not to punish them, but to keep them engaged. Mm-hmm. But that gave us an opportunity to get to the children that didn't get the concept and explain it in a different way. The way our curriculum now, they don't have the opportunity to do that. They're leaving these kids by the wayside. So it's not going to be better, it's going to be worse. What are you doing to address that? Plus, with the structure, the way it is with heroin, what I've heard out there is in the lower grades, you have resource officers. But once you get to the middle school and you get to the high school, you want to do peer-to-peer stuff. But the structure of the curriculum doesn't allow for that, and that's been cut out of our schools. And that's a big concern out there throughout the state. I think I've pretty much hit everything. I know if I think about it, I'll hit a few more things.
Maybe we ought to set up an appointment. We can specifically, I'm going to try to get through several of these.
Yeah, but if you can go through this, you have no time limit. It's me that has a time limit. So I'll try to check them off as you go on. And if you miss one, I'll let you know.
Let's see if I wrote fast enough. And so you mentioned the Pearson test.
Yes.
You're absolutely accurate. We had the Pearson test. We're transitioning. There is much more involvement of teachers in the development of the test for this spring. They're reviewing, as I said earlier, they're reviewing the passages and they're reviewing the questions. And we are shortening up each of the tests from grades 3 through 8 in both language arts and mathematics.
IEPs?
Pardon me?
The IEPs, are we ignoring them? Because we were ignoring them.
Yes. So as you're aware, the federal government requires that we have that students who have an IEP and are students with special needs, they must take the same test. That is something that we have requested waivers on that. We have not received them in New York. However, now with the new ESSA law, we anticipate that we will have some flexibility and opportunity, and as we move towards computer-based testing, it will allow us to have the students start the test and then drop to the level that's appropriate for them to function better. So we anticipate that that's going to help us, but it'll be a while, and we still are requesting, as we move into this new era with the new federal law, that we would be able to, as a state, there's a plan to have 7 states receive a grant to try some more creative approaches to assessment, and we're hoping that we can be one of those states in New York, and that we can then use that opportunity to develop different assessments for our students with IEPs.
Okay. Cap?
The issue of the age appropriateness of students, it has been an issue. As I traveled around the state, I heard that a lot, that there are students that in kindergarten, in first grade, second grade, they feel like that the standards are too stretching for them, and we are going to be reviewing all the standards. The most feedback we got for both English, language arts, and mathematics was in the early grades from kindergarten to grade 4 and then kindergarten to grade 3. So it'll be an area that's going to get much attention. On the career track, we do have in the state of New York the opportunity for a local diploma. We presented that 2 weeks ago to our regents. They were, some of them weren't as familiar with it. However, it is in place, and we do have that as an availability for students. However, we also have a CDOS credential that comes, and we're expanding that to be part of our options, our pathway options, so that students can learn the ways of work, et cetera, those soft skills on what's necessary to be a good employee, and also have opportunities to go out in the field with a particular career in mind. So those are all options that we're expanding, and the whole concept of pathways for graduation opens up lots of opportunities. You still need to keep it rigorous so that it means something to have a diploma from New York State schools, but it can within that context, it can also be something that's very relevant for students and prepares them for either taking a certification test, which is when you said that you had been in a program earlier, or you knew about programs at the time that you were in school. We used to have that as a technology or another opportunity for kids to go out immediately into a career. Now, we are expanding those, and right now we have 14 certification tests that can be part of the 4+1 graduation pathways, and we're expanding it up. As we see the tests, we're expanding to include those tests.
We need a general diploma so the kids can even get into the service, though.
That would probably be the equivalent of the local diploma now. And you talked about a curriculum right now, the plan and the recommendation that came from the task force was very clearly to put the curriculum development in the hands of the local districts. Once we identify these are the standards, and the assessments are revolved around the standards, the curriculum and what's done in the classroom should be a local decision. And as a matter of fact, the work that's been done by many teachers is being shared with other teachers in the state, so that in fact it can be great work that's done and somebody else doesn't have to do it again. And we've had the opportunity, Chancellor Farina from New York has made it available, the curriculum that it was developed in New York City, so that it can be available. We're putting it online for our teachers so that they can see and use and work off of some great work done in the city. And we have other models that we are expanding as well. New Visions is a not-for-profit that's done some great curriculum work, and we're using that as an opportunity for our teachers to have a model to use. We clearly still have the modules that are on Engage New York. Those, many teachers really like those. They should never have been a restrictive kind of thing. They should have been a model that could be used, not to be scripted, but rather as an option for teachers. That's what we want to do, and it's important, I believe, for local control of the curriculum, working with teachers to develop what they feel is most relevant for the kids that they have in their classroom.
Thank you.